Hello, and how are you this lovely Thursday afternoon? Today, I'm going to talk about something that I've been putting off for a tad bit too long. Specifically, last week I went to see Captain America Civil War, and I said I was planning a video that was a little bit more extensive to talk about it in depth. And the video I had in mind to do was a side-by-side comparison of Captain America Civil War and Batman v Superman. And the reason for that video idea was, they're two very similar movies, two very much major figures in their respective comic book universes having an ideological conflict that meets its fulfillment in physical combat. But it became apparent to me pretty readily that the jury's pretty much out on which one was a better movie. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed both movies, but I'm pretty much going to have to agree with the crowd on this one that Batman v Superman just wasn't quite up to par with a lot of the MCU. And I'm not gonna, and this isn't just me being like a crazy Marvel fanboy, like anything DC does is ultimately gonna be inferior to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the MCU has had bad movies. I mean, once you have over a dozen films in a franchise, some of them just aren't gonna be as good as the others. However, Batman v Superman doesn't really meet the high points of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I could go into great detail about this, and I had a mind to, but I feel ultimately what I've realized is they're just coming from two different places. Civil War is the fulfillment of over a dozen movies and allowing us to meet the characters and get invested in their lives and understand their personalities, whereas DC is really just trying to play catch-up at this point. I mean, spoiler warning, I guess, but the scene where Wonder Woman just reads the email and opens up, it's just like, hey, here are all these other heroes. And don't get me wrong, the Flash scene was pretty cool and the Cyborg scene was kind of interesting, but she was sitting there reading an email. Come on. So what I've said with people that I've talked to about it, basically, if Batman v Superman had just accepted the fact that it took Marvel almost a decade to get to where they are, and if they'd focused on making Batman v Superman instead of Dawn of Justice, then I feel like the movie just would have been much better off. But for some reason they've decided, oh hey, we need to set up the DC Cinematic Universe in one movie, which they just can't do. I don't know. Maybe I'm just thinking too hard about this, but I like comic book movies. They're fun, they're interesting, and if it weren't for the fact that the characters originated from comic books, then I feel like our culture as a whole would be much more willing to be like, hey, yeah, these are definitely good movies worth talking about. But just because of weird snobbery around, oh, it's based off of a comic book and comic books are for kids, they're just not quite at the level of getting the recognition they deserve from, serious critics. You know what I mean. Anyways, go ahead and leave me your thoughts on the movies below if for whatever reason you think, oh man, Batman v Superman was infinitely better, even though it wasn't. It was a good movie, but flawed. I'll go ahead and say I enjoyed it, but I also had a lot of problems with it. But it just wasn't that great. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I guess I will see you tomorrow.